Hello. Welcome to our presentation on iShop for Syteline. I'm Mark Feldhammer, the president of LogicData, and we're going to spend a few minutes introducing you to the Storefront for Syteline ERP. First, we'll just cover some basic ground here. Why would you want to have a storefront? Well, there's some very obvious reasons, all of which mean you're going to increase your revenues. The first one being customer self-service. That is, your customers will be able to access your store any time of day or night without having to call you, without having to wait for your business hours. So they can service themselves 24/7. They can do this from anywhere in the world. So if they're in a different time zone, if they are in Kuala Lumpur and they're 12 hours different from you and you're closed when they're open, they can still browse your catalog, they can still buy the products that they need to service their environment. You'll find new customers. Search engines will be able to optimize your site, show it to people when they're looking for similar products, and people who didn't even know you existed will be able to find your product. Obviously, there's a lower overhead involved when you have a storefront. You don't have to have people answering the phones, spending time with your customers. They'll be able to just come in, service themselves through a storefront that requires no ongoing salary, if you will. Your customers can find the products that they need through various features on the storefront. They can look for particular attributes, size, voltage, color, applications that meet the needs that they have. And they can compare your products one against the other to figure out which is the right one, often resulting in upselling where they buy a better product that they didn't even know existed. And you can give them specification sheets, owner's manuals, documentation, guidelines, schematics, all sorts of information that over the phone with a customer service rep would not be readily available. But the biggest reason of all to have a storefront is the convenience that you provide your customer is going to increase your sales. So that said, what is it we're talking about today? What is iShop for Syteline? Well, this is a web storefront. Think in terms of a regular storefront that you might use as a consumer, where you might shop at Land's End or Sears Roebuck or Amazon. You're looking for products, you can browse a catalog. So this is a storefront of that nature, integrated specifically to the Syteline environment. This allows your customers to view your products for sale. They can look at that in a public catalog if you'd like to present a catalog that anyone can see. But you can also have secure catalogs or private catalogs that are by customer type and even down to specific customer. So if you sell products only to a distribution channel or to the government or to the medical market, those specific customers, when they log in, they'll see those products that other customers may not be able to see. You can get all the way down to OEM products. If you private label products for a specific customer, they can look at those products in their own one-on-one catalog. For this purpose, we're using the feature in Syteline called the Customer Item Cross-Reference, and in Syteline 8 and later referred to as the Customer Contract File. With that, if you keep track of your customers' products and their part numbers, we'll expose that to them on the storefront so they can shop for their own product with their own part number, not even knowing yours. Obviously, they can place orders, building a shopping cart, and build an order to check out. As they build their order, they can check an item's availability. When will it be ready to ship? And check the item's pricing. For these two features, we're calling Syteline, and we'll show you more of that later. But fundamentally, if you're using the advanced planning system, the availability will do a call to APS to determine when that product can ship. And we're using Syteline's pricing structure. So if this is a customer you have special pricing with, we'll use Syteline's pricing and show it to them on the storefront. And of course, as the order processes through the back office, through the Syteline system, your customer can revisit the storefront at any time to see that order's status, including once it's shipped, to track the URL that it shipped against and view UPS or FedEx tracking information. The storefront allows you to take these orders without human intervention. The order passes through to Syteline. You don't have to touch it if you don't want to. It can show up in the to be shipped reports and ship out the dock. You can take the product catalog that you wish to publish, and this is a subset, obviously, of what you have in Syteline. You're not going to publish all of your Syteline information. You're going to publish only those items, those end items that you wish to sell your customers. You can use iShop as your corporate website if you so wish. You can add additional pages to the site, home page, about us, contact page, support information, investor information. All of that can be added because iShop is a full website management system as well as a content management system. One of the features we added to iShop allows you to have your salespeople enter orders through the storefront for your customers. So this, if you have salespeople in the field visiting customers, taking orders, instead of them having to call the home office or fax in the order to the home office, they can just open up their iPad, their laptop, go to the iShop storefront, enter the order on their own directly into the system. iShop is smart in that it knows if your customer has a relationship with you and has a credit limit. If so, it will let them buy on account. If not, it demands a credit card for that order. We've integrated the credit card processing all the way through iShop into Syteline to AR. We'll discuss a little bit more of this in a moment. And you can set rules for how you ship, not only for how you charge shipping, but what you can ship and where. So you can say a real-time call to UPS or FedEx or the United States Postal Service for rate shipping, or you can preset shipping charges. Whenever I ship this item, it's $5.95 shipping and handling. Or you can set up your own tables. If I ship to these zip codes through these methods, these are my prices. But at the same time, you can set up rules such as if the order is over $100, ground shipping can be free, or I cannot ship this product to Afghanistan, or I can't ship this product UPS Air because it's explosive. Most storefronts have a business-to-consumer aspect, and most of the storefronts you or I would use as people in our daily lives are going to be consumer-oriented storefronts. iShop is consumer-oriented, but it also has a business-to-business aspect, which we'll talk about in a moment. From a consumer perspective, it's a classic concept of a consumer. Someone who's an anonymous user can come to your storefront. They can create their own account. Of course, they don't have a relationship with you, but we do map that account to a brand new Syteline customer. So you can use that to help for your marketing efforts. If you're using Syteline 803 or later with a CRM module, you can use these for marketing and contact lists and CRM. Because they don't have any credit with you, a B2C customer that's been created in this fashion can only buy on a credit card. We won't let them use a purchase order and expect to get an invoice. They can only see your default public catalog. As I mentioned earlier, you might have private catalogs for distribution and other channels in your organization, but an anonymous user of this nature can only see the public catalog. And they only get public pricing, whatever you've determined to be your retail pricing, including any specials you might be running for this period. All your pricing is maintained in Syteline, so however you've set up your Syteline retail pricing and discounting, that's what the consumer is going to see on the storefront. And of course, we call Syteline for your tax calculations. An important aspect of this is we're trying to minimize the amount of data entry you need to maintain in these systems. Since you're already maintaining tax calculations in Syteline, or you may have a third-party tax software such as Avalara, there's no need for us to do the same thing in the storefront. We just ask Syteline for this order, this zip code, this customer, what are the tax calculations? And we get the same calculations you would get as a customer service rep entering the order in Syteline. We had a lot of fun with this part of it, business to business. Most storefronts, as I say, do business to consumer, but the majority of the Syteline customer base, the people who use Syteline software, sell to other companies. There are different sets of requirements here that are necessary to be able to do business with another business over the web. So we added a few very cool features here. If it's an existing customer that has an account with you, we'll check to see if they have credit with you. If they do, and it's enough credit to cover this order, we'll let them buy on account or with a credit card. It's the customer's choice at that point. If they do not have credit, if the account is frozen, it's on hold, then it's up to you when you set up iShop. Are you going to allow a customer with inadequate credit to buy on a credit card or not? Most of our customers find that their customers have multiple buyers. In a typical storefront, there's only one login for the customer. In iShop, you can have multiple logins for the same customer. So your customer can have all of their buyers, their purchasing agents, with separate logins into iShop. One of those or more can be your customer's administrator. That person can add other users, other buyers to the system and maintain their security and roles as to what they can do, even going so far as setting up another person as an administrator. As I mentioned earlier, we can now have catalogs specific to customer types or specific to a customer, which again is only required in the B2B world. A lot of customers who are coming to your storefront, if there are other businesses that do business with you regularly, already know what they want to buy. They may not want to browse your catalog. They already know the parts list of the things that they need. So we've provided a rapid order entry screen where that customer can come in and just plug in their part numbers and the due dates that they want and the quantity and build their shopping cart rapidly rather than having to move around your catalog to find those goods. We also allow your customer to look at a prior order that they've placed in the past and repeat that order, or basically add that order to their current shopping cart. So they can add multiple orders to the same shopping cart. This is helpful if you're an industry that sells repair parts, maintenance goods for a customer who maybe once a month or once a quarter needs to repeat a list of standard items that they buy from you on repeat orders. In a typical consumer shopping cart, when you go to buy goods at Sears Roebuck, it doesn't ask you when you want them delivered. It's going to ship it as soon as they have it. But in a B2B world, your customer may know you have lead times. They may be trying to plan for future production based on their own forecast and production schedules. So they want to place orders into your system for just-in-time delivery based on future dates. Obviously, we've allowed for that in iShop. It's a very important part of the B2B relationship. And I mentioned earlier, a business you do business with has their own ERP system, their own inventory numbering system. They have a different part number for your part than you have. If you've been good enough to put their part number into Syteline, they can use their part number on your website to place their own orders. And of course, businesses you have relationships with, you may have discounts with, quantity price breaks, special item relationship discounts. Those will be exposed to them through the Syteline interface in real time when they're placing their order. And as I mentioned earlier, a salesperson of yours can impersonate any customer in your database and place orders under that customer. When they check out and that order is passed to Syteline, the salesperson's name will be in Syteline as the person who placed the order. So you still have traceability that it came through your sales rep as opposed to a customer placing it directly. For those of you who are technical, I should mention that iShop is built 100% on Microsoft tools. It's HTML5, which means that the screens will resize automatically based on the device that your customer is using. So they'll see a screen on a computer. If they then run it on an iPad, the screen automatically resizes and elements of the screen repositioned to the size of an iPad or an iPhone or a smartphone. It's all written in ASP.NET. Now, what does this mean? It means it's really easy for you to brand the environment. It's easy to find the talent out there, people who understand Microsoft web development. They're very common. We use cascading style sheets for that same reason. So if you want to brand the site to look like your corporate website and keep those sites separate, but make the transition from one to the other invisible to your customer, the fact that we're using ASP.NET and cascading style sheets makes that very easy to do. This is a multi-language environment. We provide multi-language strings for for the database elements, as well as the ability to have different catalogs for the same products in different languages. And if you have developers who want to do work within the iShop environment, they have direct access to the underlying code through the iShop Commerce Manager, the administrative interface of iShop. So they don't have to download the code through FTP from your host, play with it, and upload it again. They have direct access to it right within the system. Before we wrote iShop, we also wrote a customer portal. We decided to include this with iShop since it accents the system very nicely. The customer portal basically exposes any of your Syteline ERP data that you selectively pick to your customer for them to review. As an example, they may want to be able to look at all their order line items or all their RMAs, or if you're using the service module, all their incidents or service repair orders. All of these things can easily be published through the customer portal and exposed to your customer in iShop. It's secure by customer, and they only see their data. They won't see other customers' repair orders, as an example. Some of the things we've done here as well is we allow your customer to look at invoices that you've generated in the past and reprint that invoice. That reprint uses your Syteline invoice template. So the same invoice they received is going to be what they get when they reprint it through the portal. And if you so choose to turn it on, you can allow customers to pay their invoices online with a credit card. The portal has other functionality to it of allowing customers to sort and filter their information on the screen live, to preset filters from your end to make life easier for the customer when they look at a particular screen or report. Just a very handy tool to make it easier for your customer to find out information, again, without having to call a CSR. So the integration points, and this is what's really important here, is how deeply integrated this is with Syteline. Obviously, customers are two-way. What do we mean by that? We mean if a new customer comes into the storefront and logs in and creates an account, that becomes a customer in Syteline. But by the same token, if you're a CSR sitting in Syteline talking to an existing customer, you can go to the customer master in Syteline, and with a new feature we've added there, enable that customer as a B2B user of the iShop system. And that customer will receive an email with the login and instructions on how to use the software. Ship-tos in Syteline are visible to your customer on the storefront. So they can see any ship-tos that your CSRs have added, as well as add additional ship-tos for themselves on the storefront, which will then appear in the iShop ship-to file. Pricing, as I mentioned earlier, is all handled within Syteline, and we feed it to the storefront, so there's no need to maintain pricing in two places. Product availability is either through the APS engine, if you're using that, or simply by doing a availability promise for inventory. So we look at what's been promised, what's already on hand, and what's available. And if the item is not available to ship, we look at your standard lead time for that item and tell the customer that that's when it will ship. As I mentioned before, credit terms are visible. If the customer is buying on credit, we allow them to upload a purchase order attached to their order with any other documentation they may need. The credit card interface was very important to make right with this. So the customer enters their credit card information in iShop. We validate that card. We secure the credit on the card for the amount of the order. We don't at that point in time charge the card, but we have secured the credit, so you're safe. You know you're going to be paid. We then pass the authorization over to our credit card module in Syteline. You process the order as you normally would. You ship it. You invoice it. When the invoice posts, at that point we use the authorization to capture the funds to pay that invoice exactly. That capture of funds, if successful, is then posted as an AR payment against the invoice for you in accounts receivable. So you never need to touch the credit card. You never have security issues around that credit card, and the customer is secure and safe through the process. Obviously, a customer order placed in the storefront during the checkout process is passed to Syteline, along with any notes that the customer may have put in the order header or the order line items and shipping information. And as your order processes through the Syteline system, any status changes of the order are going to be reflected back in iShop. You can set up automatic notifications that when the order ships, we'll send an order shipment notification to the customer through iShop. If there's changes to the order, perhaps the due date changes, perhaps you change a price or a quantity or an item is substituted, we can have iShop automatically send an email notification of those changes as they occur. And the sales tax is coming from Syteline. So these are the key integration points that make this a valuable product for you to deploy versus some generic storefront where you would have to rip, read, and rekey any orders that come in and maintain the storefront on a regular basis as things in Syteline change. This eliminates your need for double entry and a significant amount of maintenance. Just graphically, this diagrams some of those touch points we just talked about. And we are constantly working on this system and improving and adding additional features of touches between the two sides. Well, that's it for our presentation. If you wish any information further about this, please contact us at either this email address, sales@logicdata.com, or at our phone number, 303-694-4400. Thank you so much.